Welcome to week 3 of the Texans Cookout. Chancellor Johnson joined alongside Big Sarge of Big Sarge Media, Jonathan Alexander of Houston Chronicle, and DJ Bien-Aime of ESPN. And fellas, Texans dropped to 0-3. We'll get right to it. What was your biggest takeaway from the game? Last week, DJ, you said the sky was falling. Where's the sky right now?
I mean, we're not at rock bottom yet. I would say that we probably, if they lose this week, then we're at rock bottom. Like the rock is the as rock bottom as it can get. But this isn't surprising to me. Um, I mean, if you ask people, some people on text on Twitter or most of my friends, I said they're gonna lose this week, mainly because I knew the offense wasn't gonna be good enough. Still, because what I've seen from Nick Caley is so alarming. It's so boring. It's so stagnant. It's so bland. It's so stale. It's basically uncooked chicken without seasoning. So even if you cook the chicken up, it's still gonna be bland and nasty. That's what the offense is. The offense is still like bland and it's uncooked, no seasoning. It's just sitting in boiled water. That's it. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying? Like we just waiting for the water to run out and then the chicken gonna burn. You know? You feel me? So that's how I kind of look at the offense. You know, like people want to blame CJ. Like a lot of it's not on CJ, bro. Like if you watch the All 22, you'll see. Or sometimes you could probably look the other way from the start to play. Cool, whatever. There's always little minute stuff you can find. But when you watch it, where is the creativity of getting guys wide open? Even on Nico Collins' touchdown, that's not Nick. That is Nico being Nico with an out and up. That's not Nick Caley designing something that causes the defense to have to communicate, and then they got to match coverages, and then like there's a miscommunication breakdown. That's none of that. That's just Nico being Nico and CJ finding Nico. And this offense, as I said, led by Nick Caley. So whatever clip you're gonna put out this clip right here. The offense is unseasoned, uncooked chicken, just in water being boiled, with the chef being Nick Caley. All this falls at the feet of Nick Caley and DeMeco.
Okay,
And
hold
Nick
on there.
Casario.
Because Jonathan, like if you go to a restaurant and your friends pick it out, is it on the shelf? The restaurant is what it is, but how much is it on your friend for choosing the restaurant? And the person who chose the restaurant in this case of the nasty bland food would be DeMeco Ryans. Jonathan, how much of that is on him?
I mean, a lot of it's on him. He made the decision to fire Bobby Slowick, and now we're wondering if he made the right decision. You know, I wrote today in my story that I mean, any able-bodied person can see that this season is tanking. I mean, even Stevie Wonder could see, how bad this offense is. And Stevie can't see. So, I mean, DeMeco is the one who made the hire. He made the decision to fire Bobby Slowick, which, there was probably some reasons that he should have fired Bobby Slowick, but I think he probably should have given 1 more year. You got to put it at the hands of the man in charge. Everything starts with him.
Sarge, we're already in week 3 and we're playing the blame game. How deep of trouble are the Houston Texans right now?
Hey man, look, I've been playing the blame game since the season ended last year. So, and DJ has a great point. Jonathan has a great point, but I said this on the last show. I'll say it again. This also falls on Nick Casario. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know that DeMeco was the one that had to fire his friend Bobby Slowick, and, rightfully so. But I wonder what he gave up in order to say yes to Nick Caley. And the reason why I say that is I have been on this train, and I will say it again. The Houston Texans have finally gotten themselves in position to be the New England Patriots of the South. That they have. Look at everybody that has some type of control in the organization pretty much came from the Patriot system, and that Patriot system was only Tom Brady. Now, can you make CJ Stroud into a Tom Brady? Of course you can, but if you have the right people around him, and I don't think that Nick Caley is the right person to be around him. I said this before and I'll say it again. Just because you hang around some people don't mean that, what, back in the day, everybody used to be like, hey, man, as long as you can get close to Sean McVay, you could be this, that, and other. And I'm like, but you still have to go out and do your job, no matter who you're associated or affiliated with. So I don't care that he came from the Patriots and was around McDaniels. I don't care that he came from the Rams and he was around McVay. I kept saying, what is his offensive identity going to look like? DeMeco Ryans said that this wasn't going to be a copycat offense during training camp, and this is exactly what it looks like, a copycat offense. And, you know, I would say this. Instead of watching old film of the Patriots offense, then damn it, starting this week, y'all need to watch film of what the 2018 Houston Texans did in order to run off 9 in a row, because y'all gonna need it.
So Jonathan, right now the Texans are 0-3. The offense is what it is, and as DJ said, it's bland, no seasoning. Where do the Texans go from here?
Well, let me pick up on Sarge's comment first. I mean, I think that's the problem, right? Is like, you know, Nick Caley came from both the Patriots and the Rams system, and he chose the wrong offense. He chose an outdated offense. He should have chose the Rams with Sean McVay, and that was his fault for not, I guess, learning enough in those 2 years he was there. But where did they go from here, man? I actually don't know where they go, because I think the offense is going to continue to struggle. What they're going to have to do is lean on their defense to carry them in games. They're going to have to get more turnovers. The defense is going to have to win them games, and that's the only way. And they got to pray that the Colts are just a fluke right now, that they've won bad games, because the only way they're getting into the playoffs is if they win the AFC South. And the only way they do that is if their defense dominates down the stretch, doesn't get mad at the offense for playing so poorly, which seems inevitable, and the Colts just struggle down the stretch.
DJ, you said obviously that, you know, the offense is bland. So what is it missing? You know, is it salt? Is it garlic powder? What is the Lowry's? What are we talking about here?
We're missing some Cajun seasoning. We're missing some, you know, whatever seasoning you could think of. You know what I'm saying? It's missing all of that. I think there's just no creativity. There's just no creativity, man. Watching that game, the motions aren't used as a weapon. They're just kind of used to, like, they're just motioning the motion sometimes. I think in the run game they're decent. I get them that. Like, the run game, they actually can't run it well. I think in the pass game, it's just there's no creativity. Like, there's nobody that's wide open. Like, I would say, like, even on like the first play of the game, right? Well, not first play. Actually, the first play of the game, right? This just shows you how uncreative these guys are. They run the same bootleg they ran last week and the week before that, where you just got Nico underneath, and you got, you know, the over route, and you got the deep whatever. Like, they've been running that. Like, teams are so prepared for that. That's why it wasn't working. That's why they had to abandon it. And then, like, the other play action that they ran, I think if you watch, I forgot who it was. It might have been the Seahawks a couple weeks ago when they played the Steelers. But they had ran crosser play action when they ran crosses where you had both guys running crossing routes because they anticipated that, okay, there might be some variation of man coverage or matching or whatever. And they were able to get somebody wide open. You know, they Ramsey end to get beat for a touchdown. The Texans, they run like, you know, over route, but you got like a little sit down right here. Like Higgins run like a post curl, sit down, and then CJ isn't throwing the over route. But like, everything just feels static. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have easily just had them both of them crossing, and then whoever get open, you just throw that. You know, like we saw. I mean, that to me, that seems pretty common. Like, we've seen Bobby even do that. You know, and again, Bobby's fired, so obviously he wasn't that great of an OC. But again, we've seen creativity. They just don't have any creativity on the offense. You know, it's funny, like the Jalen Noel pitch play, that was actually kind of creative. Like, I give that to them. Like, that was actually a creative play, but that's a run play though. There's none of that on offense. There's just not enough of that. And this is what we've seen throughout training camp the entire season. So until they figure that out and get more creative and try to actually force the defense to have to communicate and break their coverages because you're attacking their rules, they're cooked. They're cooked offensively because the OC, to me, he's a whiff. Like, if I'm proving wrong, cool, because that means they playing meaningful games, and that means in January we got to cover playoff games. So I don't mind being wrong about that. But right now, I can say like he a whiff. Like I've watched enough coordinators through my life. I've seen enough football to know what's a good offensive coordinator It's a creative offensive coordinator. Wants a bad one, and I've seen plenty of bad ones. You know what I'm saying? So that's just kind of where I'm at. I don't really know what they can actually do to do that because it's obviously not in their DNA to do that. So that's kind of why.
So sorry to that point. At what point does DeMeco have to potentially press that red button? And that sounds crazy to say 3 weeks into the season, but that's the reality of where we are right now. I think it's interesting. We saw a couple of teams put up 40 points today. The Texans don't have 40 points on the entire season. It is a problem. How will the Texans go about addressing it for you?
Well, look, before I even answer that, I'm gonna tell you this is why great minds think alike. I have this on my notes. DeMeco has to put his foot down and shake some stuff up. But hey, can you take us back to the 4-box real quick? Can you bring us back to the 4-box? Before I answer that,
Magic.
Right, thank you. Before I answer that though, Chancellor, let me hear what you have to say because I haven't heard you give. I haven't heard from you in this show. So what do you think?
You know, Chance likes to play the fences. You know, Chance don't like to. He just
that's why. Well, we gotta. That's why I asked Chance what he thought because Chance is right there.
Chance don't give his thought.
I have no problem doing that. I was trying to Magic Johnson.
I got you. Yeah, I understand.
But if I got to take over, you know what I'm saying? If I got
to no, you don't have to take over. I'm just trying to be courteous to ask where your mindset is. You asked the question, meaning that you got something to say about it as well.
Yeah, for me, the offense is, as DJ said, it's cooked and it's bland. And right now, like I mentioned earlier, the fact that we're in week 3 and we're like, do they need to fire Nick Caley? We're talking about a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, and now it's questions about C.J. Stroud, Nick Caley, DeMeco Ryans, all the way to Nick Caserio. And the fact that we got here so quickly is incredible. And so, as you know, as DJ mentioned, there's no creativity, and it doesn't seem like nothing comes easy for this offense. That is the biggest issue. When I watch, the team, other teams that the coordinators they give them layups, just setting their offense up for success. And Nick Caley has not done that at all these first 3 weeks. And the other issue too is obviously they can't protect the quarterback. And 2, they're always in 2nd and 3rd and longs. You're not going to win any football games. And we're having the same conversations that we had with Bobby Slowick, except this time, optically, it looks worse. And the statistics say it's worse. So, I'm on the same train here as far as the offense is cooked, and I don't see a solution right now. And the other thing, too, that I want to get at that I want to ask you guys about, too, is they spent premium draft capital on adding wide receivers to this team. And so far, we haven't really seen much of an impact from them either. And how much of it also goes to the blame of Nick Caley of not putting them in positions to make an impact? How much of it goes to Caserio of right now, like you drafted Ariante Ursary, who, we definitely talk about him and how he got beat like a drum. This was when his career ends, however it goes, whether he turns out to be a Hall of Famer or he turns out to be a bust, whatever it is. They ask you, what was your welcome to the league moment? It'll be this game today because he got baptized throughout this game. But overall, 3 games into the season, the rookie that's made the biggest impact is Woody Marks.
Yeah.
A late round pick.
Yep. So here's the thing, Chancellor, and the reason why I wanted you to go first is because I was going to say this. You're right. I have that on there. Dude, DeMeco need to blow things up. I've said this throughout the offseason is that Nick Caley is not going to get the excuses that Bobby Slowick got. Bobby Slowick has used all of those in the first 2 seasons. The first time play caller excuses are no longer good when it comes to the Houston Texans fan base, the Houston Texans organization, is because, Bobby and DeMeco, rightfully so, were victims of their own success by winning those games and winning the AFC South and winning the playoff games and making it to the divisional round. And now what we're looking at is it looks like instead of what year 1 looks like what year 3 should look like, and year 3 is looking like what year 1 should look like. We shouldn't be talking about how the Houston Texans can't finish games in year 3 after we've seen what they've been able to do over the last 2 seasons. But we're talking about them not being able to finish. And you're in year 3, you're looking at games and you cannot finish games. That's what you do when you're rebuilding in year 1, not when you've had the success that you've had. The problem that I have, and that I think that either DeMeco is going to have to get on board with Nick Caley, or he's going to have to get rid of Nick Caley, and they're going to have to go out and get. They're going to have to go out. They need Joe Mixon. Let's just say that hands down, they need Joe Mixon. But with that being said, DeMeco is conservative. He wants to win time of possession, and he doesn't really care if he has to kick a field goal if he gets in field goal range, but he wants to win and hold on to the ball time of possession. I don't know if Nick Caley wants to open the offense up, but at this point, 3 games in, freshly hired, given an opportunity to be where you are, I don't know if he could tell DeMeco or go to DeMeco and say, hey, look, I know what you want to do, but we've got to find some ways to take chances and not just do it when we're behind or when we're second and long or third and long. We're going to have to find some ways to open this thing up. Let's start off, being creative, opening the offense up. And if we lose out on 2 possessions, at least let's lose out our way. But let's not be so conservative, and let's not be, trying to, win the time of possession. There was a point where I was like, why do they keep running the ball? Like, they're not establishing themselves offensively to start the game, and they're trying to reach an identity by the end of the game.
Well, obviously, we talked a lot about Nick Caley. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say to follow up on that. I don't think DeMeco can fire Nick Caley, in my honest opinion. I think that, at least from my viewpoint, I think that if you'd have a clean house. I don't think that you should let DeMeco get to pick a third offense coordinator in 4 years.
Yeah.
Because what good candidate would want to join a staff that is a guy that's just kind of firing guys left and right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also, he hired Nick Caley. Like, granted, yeah, Nick probably had something to do with that, but he has more power than Nick considered in a Texas organization. If he wanted to be like, nah, I want to hire somebody else, they would hire somebody else. He was on board with that. So I think he can't fire another guy and then hire another offensive. In my opinion, if it got so bad and we needed to fire people, both Knicks and Nico would have to go, in my opinion.
I think that, to me, this is just my opinion, Sarge's opinion alone. I think that Caley is something that he probably, like when it was negotiated, there's like, okay, if you give us this, we'll give you that. Like I don't feel like to me, it just doesn't seem like Caley was, a full DeMeco hire. It feels like it was what am I trying to say? A negotiation, but it's a word I'm looking for. But I feel like he's going to get something later on, or would they negotiate, say, just let us have. Nick was like, let me get this hire, and then I'll let you do something else down the line.
That's dysfunctional, though, no?
Yeah, I don't think it was like that. I think if anything, I mean, obviously DeMeco had to lead, just based on what I know. DeMeco had to lead in the hiring, but I mean, Nick Caserio did offer his input, and I would expect that they came together, on the decision. Both of them decided after discussions that Nick Caley they felt was the best candidate. Having said that, I don't think that they will fire him unless it just gets completely bad. And they definitely won't hire somebody else.
I'm gonna stop right there though, because what is completely bad? They're 0-3.
I think complete
bottom of any statistical category.
I think they're gonna win some games. I just think if they were, let's say, something like 3-9, like if it got ridiculous, like right now, I think they'll probably be like just under 500. But if they get something like 3-9, 6 games under 500, then I could see something like that happen. But I think right now the most likely scenario is if they struggle, is if they would strip play calling duties from him and have somebody else do it. But firing him probably won't do much good in turning things around. And you definitely don't hire somebody outside who has a new offense. That doesn't make any sense. So I could see them, if it got real bad, stripping play calling duties, but I can't see them firing him mid-season.
I just feel like they're gonna have to do. So I didn't mean to just real quickly. I just feel like they're gonna have to do something, because I mean the way that it's looking, they're gonna go into this bye week in week 6 at 1-4, and coming out of that bye week, how many wins do you see them having then? And if there isn't anybody called to the carpet, and in the Army, that's what you have to go see your chain of command. Your commander, you got to go stand on the carpet and be disciplined. If there is no discipline that's going to happen, and Jonathan, I agree, it may not have to be a firing, but it's going to have to be something. And the reason why I say that real quickly, it has to be something, because if DeMeco is losing control of the offensive side of the ball, and he cannot stop these guys from getting penalties from an undisciplined standpoint, now he's losing. Like, there's something being lost there.
I mean, I think he's already losing some of the faith in some of the locker room.
Yeah, for sure. Easily. Yeah, like DeMeco's not as clean cut as the fans would love to think that he is. You know, it just really comes like I think it's gonna, like, this season can't get off the rails. They lose to the Titans, it will get off the rails.
Yeah, they lose to the Titans next week.
Yeah, it's gonna get off the rails because they're gonna be 0-4, 0-5 going into the bye.
At home.
Yeah, I think I think get off the rails. I think if the offense doesn't get it situated, I think it can get off to the rails to the point that we're gonna be asking at the end of the year, is it worth bringing DeMeco back? And in my opinion, this is my opinion. This is not reporting anything like that. I think to get the best of CJ, you're gonna have to ask yourself that, especially if the offense continues to struggle. Is DeMeco the right coach for CJ going into year 4? Because the thing you don't want to do is go into year 4, run everything back, and you waste because the goal. Yeah, because like the goal is to get to a Super Bowl, and if this is how everything looks and it doesn't get better. Now, if it gets better, all right, different conversation. But if it stays, let's say it stay the same, and we go into week 17, 18, they're 6-10 or like whatever, and the offense has struggled all year, then you got to ask yourself, is it worth bringing DeMeco back going into year 4? You know, that's a fair question if you want to get the most out of CJ, period.
Yep.
I think, you know, when we talk about culinary stuff, I don't know a ton, but I know, you know, the head chef helps set the menu. That would be Nick Caley. And then the sous chef is the one who does most of the work. He's the one who actually, you know, helps season it, helps flip the burgers, all that good stuff, right? So the sous chef would be CJ Stroud. How much of this falls at his feet as well? Sarge, I'll start with you.
I think that I don't want to say a lot. Let me say that. I would say that this thing, it would probably be 40% CJ's fault, 60% of everything else that's around him. And the reason why I say that, I'm not going 50-50. The reason why I'm going 40% is because I think that we brought this up last week, but if we didn't, I must have said it somewhere else. But I mean, when you have a quarterback that was sacked 52 times last season, when you have a quarterback that was under pressure a lot last season, and then you come into this season and you know, the offensive line looks good in spurts, but you're still having a lot of people around him, people around his feet. When he does have the time, CJ is in his own head, and he's going to have to get out of his own head, and he's going to have to make football fun again. And it's not fun for him right now, as you can tell. He's making he's thinking entirely too much, you know. And this is going to sound crazy to a lot of people out there. Hey, look, just drop it in the comments. You know me. I stand 10 toes down on what I say. I feel like that CJ is suffering from the same thing that Davis Mills suffered from when he was a starter for the Houston Texans. Like, what? Davis Mills. Can I finish?
My fault. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, since you weren't around. So with that being said, CJ, and we're not talking about from a talent standpoint. What I'm talking about is Davis Mills isn't a terrible quarterback, but Davis Mills is in his head. He gets in his head a lot. And, you know, when he was a starter, he always was overthinking a lot of things, wanting to make the perfect throw here, not want to make this mistake, not want to do that, instead of just going out there and playing football. And that's what I see that's going on a lot with CJ Stroud. He's not going out there looking like he's playing a kid's game like he did in 2023. He looks like it's become more of a burden than it is to just walk out on that field and have fun, and, you know, and have fun with his teammates and things like that. And so the reason why, like I said, what I said about Davis Mills was always in his own head. And now that's exactly what I'm starting to see from CJ over the last 2 seasons.
So I don't think CJ's in his own head, but I get what you're saying.
I probably like disagree on like almost every point. Like I do disagree. I don't think CJ's in his own head either. I think, and I'll have to back this up. Like, I think too much people put gave too much of the credit to CJ Stroud, even though he deserved a lot of the credit. But I think a lot of people assume that CJ Stroud was like the next Patrick Mahomes, next Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow tier. And he's not. And that's not to say he's not a good quarterback. He is a really good quarterback, but he's not a put me on my back quarterback. And he's a guy who needs pieces around him to be successful. And he's a guy who needs protection. And I think that this offense and DeMeco Ryans hiring Nick Caley has done a real disservice to his development. And while he hasn't been perfect, and while week 2 was definitely not his best game, it wasn't good. I didn't think he was terrible aside from what he was given on the football field. I thought he made plays. I thought one interception wasn't a great interception. The second one was tipped, obviously. I thought he kept them in the game. I think more of the blame should be put on Nick Caley and the coaches who have tried to develop him. And I think they've done, a terrible job at that, because I think you can see that he's a great talent. And I think everywhere along the way, the Texans have mismanaged that.
But Jonathan, but you said that he, you say you don't think he's in his head, but he heard everything that you just said about being the next Patrick Mahomes, being the next Tom Brady. Like, he heard those, especially, every time he went around and did these interviews and things like that. And so, remember I asked him at the end of the season, hey man, how hard is it to be a franchise quarterback? And he said it's very hard. He said it's very hard to be one of those. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, it gets in his head because a prime example, really quick, what he said today. I know that the fans are going to say this, that, and people are going to say this, that, and of course people are going to say that because they're reacting to watching you all play.
Well, I think.
Hold on. But what is he doing on the field that says he's in his head? Let's stick to that. What's he doing on the field that says he's in his own head? And what does that actually mean? I'm in my own head.
Last week, he missed a lot of throws that he should have made that we've seen him make in 2023. Like the pass that he threw late to Xavier Hutchinson. He got the pass.
That was on Xavier Hutchinson. Xavier Hutchinson ran through the window instead of slowing it up. You watched earlier in the game when he actually ran like that. Hold on, let me finish.
We don't have time to get into all 22, DJ, because I can dispute that because I watched the play too.
I get that, but I'm telling you, based off what I know, Xavier Hutchinson ran the route wrong based off of the fact that when you feel space, you're supposed to slow down in that zone. If it's on your hip and man coverage, you're supposed to run away. He literally did it correctly earlier in the game, and that time he did it incorrectly in that game. That's what I'm saying. Like, I
disagree, but we don't have time to go into. That's something that you and I are going to have to talk about.
Well, let me address it. I don't think what you're saying is him being in his head. I think it's more so defense. He found out the NFL defenses are a lot better than he expected. They knew how to adjust to him. Teams got film on him, and they made adjustments while the Texans offense did not make adjustments. Yes. I don't necessarily put that blame on CJ Stroud. It's on the coaching staff to figure out, all right, when they make adjustments, how do we counter that? And we haven't seen that yet from any of these coaches, whether it was Bobby Slowick's second year or Nick Caley's first year. I place that blame more so on the coaching staff than I do CJ Stroud.
I wouldn't say that he's in his own head necessarily, but to Sarge's point, I do agree that he's not playing with the same type of swag and confidence that we really saw.
Yeah, and I do think that's I do think he could be better at that. I think he could be better at having a positive attitude. And that, because I do think that breeds, a little bit of better play.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think that is what he can control. That other stuff is not.
But that's the demeanor certainly to me though is different. This year, obviously losing doesn't help, but and this kind of goes back to my point of going to Nick Caley and how can you help out your quarterback, right? How can you give him some easy layups to help build that confidence, right? And what does that look like outside of just dumbing off a bunch of wide receiver screens? But how can you set him up for success to where he's not facing those second and third and longs? Because we're talking about the same situation that happened last year. So we're talking about a full season's worth, and now 3 games in of whether the blame does go to CJ in some of these parts, but with the offensive line not giving him time and him getting happy feet, right, or not having the same accuracy that we saw from his rookie season. And so, yeah, like to me, it's like, how can they help him out so we can see more of that? And a great example is that touchdown they had to Nico Collins, where he had that yell. And DJ said it perfectly, where it wasn't like it wasn't necessarily because Nick Caley drew up a perfect play call, or it was just such a dot from CJ Stroud. It was basically a busted coverage. And we saw CJ like yell, like almost like frustration of getting it out for them finally to get into the end zone. And so versus we have that versus what we're seeing, I believe that was his rookie season, where he hit Nico on a perfect strike, and we got the pose, right? And he was showing that swag that we used to. And we just haven't really seen, to me, the swag or the joy that I think really help add to what makes CJ Stroud so great. And so right now, how do they get back to that for CJ Stroud?
Go ahead, DJ, because I know.
How to get back to that? I mean, you just kind of need the guys around to play better. I think that's what it's come down to. Like, I know we kind of get enamored with, quarterbacks just putting everything on their shoulders, whatever. But I think that you still need your guys to play better. You need your play callers to design better calls, things of that nature. O-line to hold up in certain spots. Because, while, yeah, he's not obviously in that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson category, Patrick Mahomes, but, like, we see Patrick Mahomes now with the pieces that he has. And it's not nearly as crisp as it was when he had Travis Kelce, prime, Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Andy Reid was dialing things up left and right? It looked different. And now, in 2025, it looks vastly different in the sense that even last year, with those pieces, they weren't as dynamic. They wasn't as explosive and things of that nature. So I would say it just comes back to people around him elevating their game a little bit more to make things easier. So, yeah, again, start with Nick, drawing up more plays to get guys wide open. You are an offensive play caller in 2025. Plenty of people do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, when you think about it, the touchdown to Emeka Buka in week 2, like, you look at that play from all 22, like, that's a great schemed up touchdown play. You look at it, the way they set up that screen, things of that nature. That is great. You use DeMeco's aggressive tendencies against them on third down to be able to get Emeka the ball in space to be able to go score that touchdown, right? Designing more things like that. But until they do that, like, it's just not gonna. None of it's gonna matter because you're relying too much on, like, if you just watch even like on the still pictures, how many guys are just naked open, wide butt naked open, and it's not like that often. You watch it, you just put it like, you just freeze frame. There's not that many guys are open. You just see the rock combinations. It's just teams seems so prepared for that. So I would just say Nick Caley's got to be better, but I lost hope in Nick Caley a long time ago.
I do want to talk about the investments that the Texans made over the offseason to help out CJ Stroud, and we talk about how they revamped this offensive line, and obviously what they did in the draft, adding Ursery, and then as I mentioned, the investing in the 2 wide receivers. What are your guys' thoughts on obviously the early returns? Because as I mentioned, Jalen Noel, he's been featured primarily just on special teams. Jaden Higgins has, I think, maybe just like 1 catch each game. And then Erigon Harrisry, it was a rough day for him. What are your thoughts on the investment that would go from the other Nick, not Caley, but Caserio?
Let me ask, look, and real quickly, Chance, if you don't mind me asking, I don't mean to say, but because with you saying that, I remember, but I don't remember. So I want to ask you all because, and maybe Jonathan may know this, DJ, Chance, y'all may know this, but so outside of Randy Moss, when was that Patriots offense ever explosive?
All the time. What? They had Gronk.
But not Gronk going down the field every time like they did. Like Randy Moss that year was, but they did Julian Edelman and Amendola and all them. There was a lot of dinks and dunks, and there was a lot of dinks and dunks to Gronk too.
I am a Dolphins fan.
But that's different. I
used to watch Tom Brady twice a year. Plenty of explosives, baby. Plenty of explosives. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying about the dink and dunk part. They were literally, we're going to take whatever you gave us and we're going to matriculate down the field. So, like, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Patriots way is just literally Tom Brady.
Yeah, so that's
It's
why.
Tom Brady.
So with to answer Chance's question, like I mean, y'all already know what I think about the offensive line additions. I thought that they stunk. I thought that it was pew. I thought that they were setting CJ up for failure, and all that falls right back on Nick Caserio. He watched that line finish last season, and he went back and said, "Hold my beer. Let's see if we can go worse than 32." And there's only 32 teams in the league, so maybe he wanted to be ranked in the UFL too, or the AFL, or the lingerie league, or whatever. He's trying to get them worse than what they was last season. But when I look at what they went and they got, like, I think that Christian Kirk was a good addition, right? Especially since you have no Tank Dell. I think that drafting Noel and drafting Higgins, I like that. Getting what you're going to get from Hutch to go along with Nico Collins. But if you don't put these players in positions to utilize their strengths, all you're doing is spinning your wheels. All you're doing is spinning your wheels and having to come and say, you know, hey, pretty soon we're going to get this thing together, and you know, we're right there, we're close, we're almost there, and once we get this thing together, you'll see it take off. Well, I mean, right now I'm old school. I used to ride bikes, and you know, once that chain pop off the wheel, you done. All you doing is spinning now, trying to stop your bike. It ain't catching nothing. You just trying to stop the bike and put the chain back on. So it may be time for them to put the chain back on, because after 3 weeks, that joker done popped.
All right. So with them being on 3, Tennessee comes into town next week at NRG Stadium. What will be the conversation next Sunday, right here on Texans Cookout, if they drop to 0-4 and lose to the Titans at home? Jonathan, let's start with you on that one.
It's time to punt on the season. It's time to just start thinking about getting that top draft pick. If they lose to the Titans and start 0-4, you know, then that means they're 0-5 heading into the bye week. You really do got to consider some contingency plans, and what do? You start getting those things ready. You start figuring out your vacations, where you're heading for vacations on the early January trip. They don't want to lose against the Titans. It's all over if they do that.
I would say that if they lose to the Titans, yeah, I mean, you know, and it goes on that route that it's gonna go. If you lose to the Titans, you lose to the. Because I think part of the kept, if they lose to the Ravens going to the bye, they're going to go face the Seahawks all the way in Seattle. And I think right now they got a second hardest schedule remaining. Hardest schedule based off the strength of schedule record, blah blah blah. So they can really get off the wheels, and I think, man, at the end of the year, you just start asking, like, is DeMeco the right guy to get them to where they want to go? You know, I think that's a fair question to ask. Because they were always due for this type of season. Why? Because they had been squeaking by for so long on just their talent, so long, and eventually now the coin is flipping. Because they've literally been in a bunch of one-score games since week 5 of 2023. I think it's now the number has to be like 27. That has to be that's for sure top 1. I know the Vikings were top 1 if you just start from week 1 of 2023. But if you go week 5, I'm sure the Vikings. I'm sure they're number 1. They've been in close games almost every single week since then. So I think at that point they were always due for a season like this. And you gotta ask yourself, is DeMeco the right guy to get this team where they want to go? And I think that, you know, when you have a season like this, the answer is probably no. You know, so you just ask yourself, like, is it worth completely revamping the entire organization and pairing CJ with an offensive mind, and going from there? Because the defensive piece is still going to be there. So just get you a smart DC with a good OC that knows what he's doing and kind of go from there. Or you just fire Nick Caley and you try to get Ryan Daboll when he's eventually fired, and then try to see if that works. Which that probably wouldn't, because Brian Daboll and DeMeco would probably not necessarily clash, but Brian Daboll fiery too, so it could get tricky.
Well, you also have your boy from Miami, who I'm sure will.
He wouldn't work here, because then you would have to revamp the entire offensive line again, because none of them fit what he would want to do.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I was covering the team in 2018 when they started out 0-3 and then they went on a 9-game winning streak and, ended the season. I think they ended the season 11-5. They won the AFC South and then lost in the playoffs, of course. But I was here and I watched that locker room band together and, find ways to pick each other up and, just to, take it one game at a time. They kept saying, we're just going to take it one game at a time. And that ended up being 9 games. Now, my question is, my question to myself is, do I believe that the Houston Texans have what it takes to win 9 games in a row to get themselves back on track? Yeah, sure. I believe they have some talent that could do that, but just like DJ mentioned earlier, the schedule won't allow it. So I was here and covering the Houston Texans when they went on that 9-game winning streak. Excuse me. I was also here in 2020 when Bill O'Brien went 0-4 to start off the season, and they fired him and brought in Romeo Crennel, and for the rest of that season, they won 4 games. And then the next season, they won 4 games. And the next season, they won 3. It went 3-13-1, and then they brought in DeMeco Ryans. And so I've also been on that opposite end of watching this team self-destruct after going 0-4. Do I believe that that's going to happen now if they lose to the Tennessee Titans? I don't see it being that abrupt. I don't see the McNairs coming in and saying, okay, DeMeco Ryans, your service is no longer needed. I think that they will definitely give him the opportunity to get this thing right. But him and Nick Caserio are probably going to have weekly meetings with ownership to explain what the plan is going to be, because now that they finally got this thing right, now that they finally got it on the right track, now to derail it, to derail it all at one time and to watch the season just go to hell in a handbasket, that's not going to fly. So they can't. What the Texans can't afford to lose next week, but a win also won't be promising as well.
And to piggyback off that, to DJ's point earlier about things flipping in the 1-score games this season, I think the Rams game, like, okay, cool, right? They were a fumble away. They played a really good Rams team that we know will, is a contender in the NFC. Last week, Henry Toto makes that tackle. They go to 500 and 1-1 the season. And even though this technically was a close game, the performance overall just was bad. And so, like, it was close, but when you look at the way Jacksonville played, Jacksonville didn't play well either. Look at how many drops they had. Jacksonville also had a number of penalties. Trevor Lawrence missed a number of throws. And so, to me, it's bigger than just like, and I know DJ's not saying that, but even though DeMeco says they're close, like, they're a long way away from what the original expectation was, which was to contend for a Super Bowl. I will close with this since it was brought up on the future of DeMeco Ryans if things don't, straighten out over the course of the season. Who, if it comes down to it, who goes first? If you're the McNairs, would it be Caserio or would it be DeMeco Ryans, or does it depend?
Okay, so for me to answer that, I think that it has to be, if you're going to get rid of one, you got to get rid of both. Don't do the whole, like, we're going to get rid of one. Because the thing is, DeMeco makes a lot of these decisions with, like, DeMeco has the most power. Like, we have to stop underselling that. We, as in, like, the general population, not we as in us. He has the power to make the final say. He can make the final call on a lot of things that they do. So, again, if you get rid of Nick, that's only that's only cutting your face or nose to spite your face, whatever the phrase is. So, like, you have to, at that point, you had to bring them both back. I'll get rid of both of them, because what GM is going to sign up for a 1-year hot seat situation? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's going to sign up for that? Like, who's good is going to sign up for that. You'll get somebody who's going to just step right in and be there and be DeMeco's do-boy, and that's going to be that. So, like, you would have to get rid of both or bring them both back. So I don't think it should be a scenario of one or the other. It should be a both, because, again, DeMeco has the most power in the organization, not named Kyle and Hannah McNair.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I think it's a package deal. They often talk about their locksmith. They agree or they come to decisions together. And both of them, in my opinion, just based on what I know, have almost equal power in the same, but in different decisions. Like Nick is in charge of the draft. I mean, he understands DeMeco's vision, but he has the final say on the draft. DeMeco has final say on, a lot of the coaching decisions, and I think the roster makeup. But the way that they interact, the way that they make decisions are together. So I think if you fire one, you got to fire the other. If you keep them, then you got to keep both of them. So I agree with the point that they're a package deal.
It's still funny to me. It's like week 3, and these are the conversations that we're having. But that
I'm not saying this is going to happen.
Sure.
Because I don't think it'll happen anytime before. I don't even think it'll happen at the end of this year. I think both will be on the hot seat next year if they have a losing record.
So the reason why I think that Nick would go before DeMeco is Nick was on the hot seat when they fired Lovey. Y'all, Nick's seat was hot. That's why he came to that press conference that we were all at when they announced that they were firing Lovie Smith after they won in Indianapolis. That's why he came so humble. Like, that's the first time that I've seen Nick Caserio that humble. Like, I've never seen him that humble before. And for him to talk the way that he talked during that press conference, the way that he did not really look down to make eye contact with Hannah McNair, that let me know, hey, you're like, something ain't right. And then later on, I found out that, Nick was told, hey, you either shape up or ship out. And they don't have a problem paying the money for people for things that they consider problems to go away. They don't have a problem with that. They let Brian Gain go. They let David Culley go. They let Lovie Smith go. They don't mind paying the money to make you go away. And I just feel like it would be Nick Caserio first because he's been given way more of an opportunity than DeMeco has.
We will see. Hopefully, we won't have to if these Texans can string together some wins over the rest of the season. That concludes week 3 of Texans Cookout. For Big Sarge of Big Sarge Media, Jonathan Alexander of the Houston Chronicle, and DJ Bien-Aime live from the Jacksonville Airport. Chancellor Johnson. We will see you guys next week.